Mario Kart World has 30 normal tracks, with over 100 intermission tracks, but today we're focusing on those 30 basic tracks to kind of rank them. Yes, I know the game isn't out yet and I haven't even played a single one of these tracks, but there is gameplay for almost every single track out there, from whether it be people's demos, or the Nintendo Treehouse, or the trailers themselves, or even pictures Nintendo posted. We are going to be ranking all 30 tracks based on which ones I am least excited to most excited for. Now, I will be comparing this ranking to my actual ranking of the tracks when the game comes out to see kind of how they compare, but yes, we're going through all 30 tracks. Before we do that, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. A lot of you watching right now are not yet subscribed. Let's have a goal of reaching over 100 brand new subscribers on this video alone. But thank you so much for tuning in. Let's dive into my early ranking of how excited I am for every single Mario Kart World track. Coming in at number 30 as my least excited track so far is Desert Hills. Based on the demo gameplay that we've seen so far, it looks exactly like the Desert Hills back on the DS. It's just a weird track to be returning. There's really nothing that interesting about it, and a lot of the sections are just wide open with really nothing going on. Now, it is pretty neat to see the Toko Toko enemies return finally all the way from Mario Land, but there's just not enough happening on this track. It's very boring and very bland. There's just like nothing but a couple of windy turns in this sand track and then a couple of Toko Toko enemies. That's really it. I'm not sure why this track ever returned in the first place. It's just confusing to me, and I definitely do not enjoy what I've seen so far. Next up, we have Mario Brothers Circuit, and this is really one of the first tracks in the game. It's supposed to be that. It just looks very, very basic. There's a couple of turns and a couple of rails that you can try out, but at least there's something else outside of just sand and some slowly windy tracks. This one looks to be very average, you know, nothing that I'm really super excited for, but it's something. The big loop at the end is kind of cool, I guess, but besides that, there's not much else that this track offers. Koopa Troopa Beach is one of the few tracks so far that we really haven't seen, or at least I haven't found any gameplay for online anywhere when I looked it up. The only time I've seen it so far is a quick drive-by through an intermission. It looks like the, you know, kind of setting and the details around it is actually kind of interesting. It's kind of like a beach party and a DJ booth and stuff is set up, but there's really not much else. To me, this was just a strange track to bring back in the first place. Like, there was nothing super interesting about the original. You just kind of raced on the outside of this island the entire time with a couple of ramp boosts, but besides that, there just wasn't much else, and the only gameplay I can give you right now is this remade mod version from Mario Kart 8, so this is all we have right now. Maybe it's just me, but Starview Peak does not look interesting. I never was a big fan of really any of Rosalina's tracks, especially Rosalina's Ice World, and this just doesn't seem to be that interesting either. There's not a lot going on, and if anything, it kind of reminds me of Ice Ice Outpost a lot, as it has two different colored tracks, but they're pretty much right beside each other, and it doesn't look like it matters all that much which one you choose. And before you know it, the track's over and you're flying right through the inside of what looks like to be Rosalina's observatory. I really wish they just had us racing around her actual observatory from Mario Galaxy instead of this boring, super long, windy track that doesn't look like it does anything that special. And for number 26, we have another beach track, and this one is Peach Beach, coming back from the GameCube. Now, we haven't seen a whole lot of this one, and maybe there's some interesting stuff that we haven't seen yet besides some cars driving in the sand for some reason. But from what I've seen so far, it looks very identical to that of the original version, now allowing you to drive on top of deeper water instead of it being the little shallow water that you could drive on and eventually get stuck if you go too deep. But for the most part, it looks like it could be a nice, well-rounded track. Nothing I'm really excited for. It never was one of my favorites personally, and that's just my personal opinion, so it's not something I'm super duper excited for. Coming up at number 25, we have Peach Stadium, and moving into our next tier of tracks being more along the okay category. Now, this one looks like a combination of Royal Raceway and also Mario Circuit from Mario Kart 8. There's just not a lot going on here, and honestly, you could probably put this track down a little lower. The only reason I put it up as high as it is just because I really like how it has lots of verticality on this, and it goes up pretty high into the sky before it drops you all the way back down to the ground, which was pretty cool to me. And I love just kind of the scenery driving around the outside of Peach's brand new transformed castle. It's a really pretty looking track. It just doesn't do anything super crazy. There are some branching paths and looks like some rail sections that you can ride, So honestly, it's not terrible. Number 24, we have Moo Moo Meadows. Look, I'm still a little confused just as much as you guys as to why Moo Moo Meadows keeps on returning, but if it gives us the cow, then I really don't have a problem with it. But Moo Moo Meadows is once again another one of those tracks, the few tracks that we really haven't seen the actual track of. We've seen lots of intermission tracks that looks like it goes through this region and it looks very similar to Moo Moo Meadows, but we haven't actually seen the meadows. Now, if I were to predict it, it would probably be exactly the same, and I think we have seen a couple overview camera looks at the track, and it does look exactly the same. So yeah, overall, it's a very basic track, and honestly, I don't even know why I put it as high as I did. Maybe it's just because it's one of those Mario Kart staples, and maybe they'll do something a little bit different with it. We haven't seen it yet, so that's why I'm giving it a small benefit of doubt that maybe it'll get some type of upgrade where we'll go through, you know, an actual barn or something and through the animal pasture, but we're just gonna have to wait and see if that's actually going to be a change that we get. Wario Stadium seems to be a lot more simple compared to its Nintendo 64 version. Now, if you ask me, that version was also very boring, but this one just seems to be lots of ramps and bumps everywhere to trick off of. It's a stadium, of course that's what we're going to get. But besides the couple bumps and ramps, there's not a whole lot going on here, so I'm hoping that I'm missing something because the stuff that I've seen so far looks pretty average. Now, there are lots of walls it looks like you can drive on. There's one really long one that's like a narrow strip that goes up above the racers towards the end, so I don't know. Once again, this is just a track that I'm going to have to actually play on to see how I feel about it. Coming in at number 22, and the last one from this tier, is Crown City. This just reminds me of one of the city tracks from Mario Kart Tour, but it's actually not that bad. If we actually see a gameplay of us actually moving faster, it actually looks pretty decent. I love going up on the top of the skyscrapers towards the middle of the track and the different rails that you can actually grind on as well. There's a small little flying section that takes you down like Main Street of a city, which looks pretty cool as well, and it looked really cool at night also. So I'm actually kind of in a super small way looking forward to this track. Hopefully there's more to it than what we've seen so far, but so far, really not that bad. Starting our next tier, we have number 21, Shy Guy Bazaar, which is a complete copy and paste from the 3DS version. It looks pretty much identical, just with lots of more detail and lights and things decorated all around the town, which looks pretty cool. But for the most part, like I said, it's the exact same with some new added rails all over the city, which looks like it could offer some unique differences, actually allowing you to choose a higher path or a lower path, and I really like tracks that do this. It seems like there could be some tech hidden here that we just haven't seen so far, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what else this track has to offer. Coming in at number 20, we have DK Pass. This one's always been kind of a difficult track coming back from the DS. There's lots of really quick, sharp turns and windy bends where it's easy to slam into a wall or just straight up fall off the track. Even the Nintendo Treehouse employees did so, and this was like 50 or 100cc, which is still extremely slow. So doing this on 150cc, or maybe if they added 200cc, could be some high intense racing, similar to that of Neo Bowser City. But for the most part, it looks like it's the same track. I really like the section with the little bit of trees and logs sticking out of the ground that you can rail ride on, which looks pretty cool, but it's pretty much a one-to-one recreation. There's not much else to say about it. It's always been a really good track, and it's really awesome to see it make a return. It looks more grand in scope, if anything, very much reminding me of DK Summit with the snowboarding Shy Guys and of course the crowd watching in the background. Number 19, we have Boo Cinema. I think I was more excited about this one before we actually got to see the gameplay of this one, because it just doesn't look as interesting as I thought it should. So you're pretty much driving through this like kind of haunted movie theater, and you actually get to jump through this screen, and it changes everything to this really cool monochrome black and white type of deal, and it's actually pretty unique looking, and I think the whole atmosphere and vibes of this track is awesome. But as far as the track itself, there's not a whole lot going on. It's a lot of straight driving and very slight bends and turns. It will actually have you flying back out of the screen, which is pretty cool, back into the movie theater, but still, it just looks like it's very short and over before it even starts. But I really do like the whole theming and vibes of this track, and I love it being like this haunted movie theater. That is something that I really am looking forward to. Look, if you're wondering why I put Sky High Sunday even this high, I never would have imagined me doing so, but after watching what they actually did to this track, it looks so much better. There's multiple different branching paths everywhere. There's even one that takes you above everyone else on these little ice rails that you can ride. It then splits into like 2 and then even 3 sections with one in the middle this time around, and it even allows you to drive on the side wall this time, which is really cool when you're going around the final bend. I really love this, and I feel like this track is actually going to have a lot of meta put into it with its wall riding and its rail riding and which path is the quickest. I can't wait to actually play this track, and this is strange coming from somebody who really didn't like the original track whatsoever from Mario Kart Tour. So that's really good news for me. Another track we only got a small glimpse of is Dry Bones Burnout, and it reminds me a lot of Bowser's Castle from Mario Kart 7 with lots of different roadways that lead into this giant castle, but this time it's like the insides of a giant skeletal remains of dry bones or something along those lines. There's lots of different paths and boosts that you'll actually fly through the air, so yeah, it definitely reminds me of Mario Kart 7's Bowser's Castle. It looks pretty cool, and I'm actually very excited for this one. I can't wait to see more. Wario Shipyard from Mario Kart 7 was always a pretty cool track to me, but I feel like the vibes this time around is like 10 times better. It really puts the emphasis on the stormy sky and the rain, and it really opens up the track, giving it more of its outside feel, and I love this. Instead of going underwater and having boring underwater driving, you're actually driving on top of the crazy waves that you can actually trick off of thanks to the storm brewing outside, and I just love everything about this track. It stays very true to the original while also adding a really cool new flair to it, and I can't wait to actually race here again since Mario Kart 7. Choco Mountain got a huge upgrade here, and I absolutely love it. It was always kind of barren and empty, and maybe that's just the vibe of it, and a lot of people probably will miss that with just the fog and the loneliness up in the mountains, but they turned it into kind of like this nitro dome with charging chucks running around and tossing footballs every which way. I love everything about this new change, and it looks really exciting. There's extra ramps added, even more obstacles with falling boulders, and even charging chucks running horizontally back and forth across the track. Still ending in the same way with multiple bumpy hills, but in more of a dramatic fashion, with sparklers going everywhere and the crowd roaring. It just looks so much cooler in my opinion. I cannot wait to race on this track. Next up we have Cheap Falls, and we really don't get to see too much of this track. We have to like piece apart pieces from the trailer and also from the treehouse and also some screenshots that we've seen of the actual track, but it looks like there's going to be lots of water and also a really cool oriental theme in the fall. It reminds me a lot of Autumn Heights from Paper Mario the Origami King, which is probably my second favorite theming of levels or worlds from a game, and I just absolutely love how this looks so far. It looks like there's going to be a lot to it, from logs that you can grind rail on and also lots of waterfalls to fall off of, so yeah, this track is definitely exciting. Whistle Stop Summit to me is probably one of the most underrated tracks so far that I've seen with people's reactions. Like, no one's really talking about this track, and I feel like main reasons is because they're moving so slow. It's really hard to tell like what the meta of this track is going to be, but I feel like it is going to have one, and it's going to be pretty crazy. There's so many rails all over this track, and it does look like it might be kind of complicated. Like, a lot of them you're just kind of sticking to automatically, which might get in the way, but it looks like there's a lot of meta, especially at the end of the track where there's actually live trains that can race through, so you have to watch out for those, and it kind of opens up new areas depending on where the train is at in that situation. So you'll be flipping and flopping off rails in different directions to get to different paths, and it looks like it could have a lot of variety, literally just depending on each lap where the train's at. I am really excited for this track, and I feel like at 150cc, it is going to be a serious race. Name one person out there that doesn't like Toad's Factory. No, like seriously, if they had any type of experience with Mario Kart Wii, this is definitely a fan favorite and finally brought back in Mario Kart World, and it looks like there's some pretty cool new additions. There's lots of higher paths with upper roadways that you can take, probably from wall jumping down to certain hallways, and there's some other changes as well. For instance, with the horizontal moving conveyor belts, there doesn't seem to be blocks or boxes moving this time around, giving you an obstacle to dodge. Instead, it just looks like nothing but coins and item boxes, which is fine, but I would have liked those obstacles still, as it made the track a little bit more difficult. But like I said, there's tons of guardrails that you can grind on, and also lots of walls to do flips off of, so it looks like there's going to be some exciting new changes in meta to this track that I'm definitely excited for. This is definitely Toad's Factory, and it's brought back in an absolutely exciting new way. Also, did you notice the cranes holding the pieces of metal? Yeah, you can definitely grind rail off those, which is going to be super exciting to try to hit those tricks. Now, remember how I said the Oriental theme is my second favorite theme in gaming? Well, the first one is exactly what you're seeing here. The Grassland Savannah I love so much. It's why I love Grassland Groove so much in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and of course Savannah Citadel from Sonic Unleashed. Closest we've ever gotten to a level theming like this in Mario is from Mario 3D World's Sprawling Savannah, so I absolutely love the theming of this track and might be a little biased because of it. There's some water sections and lots of branching paths and grind grind rails for you to take as well, but I personally just love the way it looks, and I love all the surrounding animals all over the track. There's a whole bunch of different ones, and it's all like new Mario themed animals, and it looks so cool. It's almost like a zoo in a way, and it has this amazing waterfall turn at the very end, which I really like as well. Everything about this is just awesome, even from the area that looks like you're jumping off of Pride Rock from Lion King. So this is just like a perfect track in my eyes. We now move into our final 10, and Dandelion Depths is really cool to me because it reminds me a lot of the Wooded Kingdom mechanical gardens from Super Mario Odyssey, where there's some nature and some mechanical elements as well, which looks really cool for a Mario Kart track. I really love the dandelions flying everywhere, and it just adds to the scenery, and going down from the top of the track down into the caves and the mines and underneath the track into this really cool underground cove with water is so beautiful. And it's really hard to tell just how beautiful it is because this is an off-screen handheld Switch version, but I cannot wait to actually see what this cave looks like when we play it for ourselves on our own televisions. It looks absolutely beautiful before making your way back above ground. It is a beautiful track. I cannot stress it enough. It doesn't look like there's too much to it, but once again, it's just too pretty to not like. Coming at number 9, we have Acorn Heights. Now, at first, this reminded me of Wild Woods, and I wasn't too excited for it until really watching the Treehouse gameplay again and seeing that there's a lot going on with this track. There's a lot of grind rails to take from the roots of the trees, and the whole section where you're flying down into the garden area looks like there's a lot of multiple different paths that you could take. There's just leaves everywhere, bouncy mushrooms everywhere straight from Mushroom Gorge, tons of vines to grind on. It looks like you can make your own path down this hill, and there's just so much to go on. Like, there's just so much track to play around with in that section. I love that so much. Before going into the final section where there's like 4 or 5 different paths with rolling acorns coming down the hill, once again more grind rails that you can grind on with the plants. It just looks like there's a lot of openness with this track and a lot of opportunities to make your own path, and I really love that. Great Question Block Ruins is another one of those tracks that just makes me say, goodness gracious, it's so beautiful. It reminds me of a combination of DK Jungle and also Sky Garden, and it's just beautiful. There's all these golden blocks coming straight from the infamous New Super Mario Bros. 2, and I like this track because it's also tight and concise. It looks like there's lots of little areas to gain leadway on your opponents, and it's very sharp, quick turns, keeping you on your toes. I like the little bouncy clouds, and even the flying section looks like it has some uniqueness to it as you have to actually fly through the rings in order to go faster. And yeah, it just looks like it's a tight, quick, well-rounded track that I'm really excited to try out in person. I think this track is probably going to be one of my favorites, but we're just gonna have to wait and see when the game actually comes out. Now, this is one I know I'm about to get beat up in the comments for. Like, what? You're that excited for Mario Circuits 1, 2, and 3? But that's why I'm excited. It's because it's 1, 2, and 3, all of them combined into this really cool classic course. And there's something that I really learned with Mario Circuit 3 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And no, it's not just because it's my best friend's favorite track and he picked it so much I ended up liking it. It's just because sometimes you need that classic track, and to have a combination of all 3 classic Mario Circuits all combined into one race is going to be so cool in my eyes. Like, I can't wait to see how they actually put this together and how the actual 3-lap system will work, or is it going to just be checkpoint based going through each section one at a time? But I can't wait to see this track because sometimes those classic tracks is something that you need. Just having basic flat land allowing you to hit shortcuts through gaps of the bricks. It's one of those tracks where you can tell that items are going to be utilized the most, and it's also very quick and precise turns as well, which really test the driving skills of the player. So I'm really, believe it or not, looking forward to this track, and it is going to end this tier in my tier list of hype tracks so far. So it was very close to even making it in S tier. I had to bring it down one because I know a lot of people are going to be like, what in the world is wrong with Nintendo Land? But still, it's just my personal list. I'm pretty excited for this track still. We are now down to the final tier, and this is the S tier tracks. There's 6 tracks in this tier, and let's get started with Bowser's Castle. Bowser's Castle looks pretty great this time around. It doesn't look like it might be my favorite one ever, but it does look pretty fascinating. This time they're going for more of like an evil scientist lab castle. It's very electronical, lots of monitors and computer systems everywhere, before flying up through a thunderstorm cloud, very similar to that of Cloud Top Cruise. Of course, you have your very sharp left and right hand turns, and there does look like there's some secrets that I've seen so far, but it's hard to tell because of course everybody has the smart steering, so no one's one's really taking any shortcuts or off the beaten paths, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of obstacles to really push this one further than some of the other ones. There's a couple geysers that come out the path, but no real statues of Bowser that's causing mayhem on the track. Everything's kind of off the track and not really interfering with the players, so we're just gonna have to wait and see actually how this track comes out in its finished version, and maybe I like it even more than what I've seen so far. But either way, it still looks like a pretty fun, exciting track up in the thunderous clouds this time around, which is a really cool change of pace. And I'm still very excited for this track. Coming in at number 5, we have DK Spaceport. Now, a lot of people thought to them this looked a lot like Excitebike, which if you played Excitebike, you'll know it is very, very boring. But I feel like at faster speeds, this track could be pretty fun because each section of the track can be completely random depending on how the barrels and obstacles are falling, and with a whole bunch of chaotic 24-player races and high speeds and hard difficulty with items flying everywhere, this could be pure chaos and pure fun, unlike Excitebike where you're just simply driving straight and turning and going around the same loop, which is the same jumps and ramps every single time, which really doesn't change anything that much. So I'm actually really looking forward to this track, making my way all the way to the very top, and it actually feels like you're making your way up to something instead of just going around a loop over and over and over again like Baby Park and Excitebike. So yeah, I'm actually surprisingly really looking forward to this track, and I feel like I said, at higher speeds there can be a lot to it, especially since every section has a little something different, from obstacles to rails and even some sections with tons of walls down hallways you can actually trick off of in order to gain a little bit more of speed boost. So yeah, I think this track is going to be one of my favorites for sure. There's just so much going on, especially the giant barrels and DK at the very end, or Robo DK that is, throwing these barrels at you. I really love everything that this track had to offer, and I can't wait to play it for myself. Also, can I mention the rocket being at the end and gliding off of it for the finale looks so freaking cool. Like, this is just awesome. Airship Fortress is one of my favorite Mario Kart tracks of all time, and you can imagine how bummed I was, like incredibly bummed, that it didn't get to reappear in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And I always felt like it had to be for a reason, because Nintendo has to know that people love this track. But of course, it definitely was, because it's coming back in Mario Kart World, and it looks so great. It looks almost untouched as well. It still has the moving flame pillars and also the key wrenches and the bullet bills blasting your way, and it really is just even more cinematic than ever. I mean, the sky is just full of these dark clouds, and you can see Bowser's castle in the background and fire flying everywhere, like an actual air battle is going on right now. I cannot wait to play this track, and as it being one of my childhood favorites, it really is a sweet dream come true to see this track return in its full glory and pretty much a one-to-one recreation. This is another one that very much shocked me that I was going to put this high, literally at the third most anticipated track in the game, Salty Speedway, because it doesn't look like much when you're first looking at it, but I love certain elements of this track. You can choose to stay in the water sections longer and take a water path instead of a land path. You can also jump from a land to a water path as well. There's just so many different options that you can take, and it looks like it really gives the racer their own freedom to go where they want. Lots of branching paths, lots of paths that you have to really trick off the wall in order to reach, like we've seen within that Mario Kart Direct that looked so cool. It looks like this track is going to have a lot of meta and a lot of areas that you can explore in order to find faster routes, and I am so excited for this. I love the constant transition from water to land, and like I said, you can choose if you want to be on the water more or on the land more, and it reminds me a lot of one of my favorite classic racers, RC Revenge Pro, if you ever played that game back on the PS1 and PS2. Coming in at number 2 as my second most anticipated track from Mario Kart World, we have Dino Jungle. This is a track that I always loved, and I am very excited that it's making a return, but I will be honest, a lot of people are either going to fall on one category. They're going to love this track or they're going to hate this track because of what they did to it. They've definitely changed up this track a lot, and instead of it being more natural, it looks like it's more of a kind of Jurassic Park theme park for the dinosaurs. Lots of mechanical pieces to it now instead of it being all wooden and natural and trees everywhere, which I actually love this. I love this kind of mechanical zoo for all these dinosaurs, and there's so many more dinosaurs this time around. There's T-Rexes running through the track, there's Triceratopses running straight at you that you can actually trick off of. There's just a lot of love poured into this remake, and I love kind of the whole fenced in, encaged area, and the dinosaurs are kind of breaking free. You can see lots of the cages are kind of broken open, and they're just kind of all walking around. I love this, and literally, I even love the colors, the giant, huge trees in the background, and just the way the track looks overall. It's a beautiful looking track. It looks like it's very exciting to drive on with all the different dinosaurs. There's some I can even see off the path that you can drive on top of, like there's one down there in the middle of the water that you can kind of grind rail off the back of its spine, you can tell. It just looks so cool, and just all the sections where it looks like a wall jump could be used to get into different walls and different areas. You can see a top path on the metal path above Mario here. There's just so much put into this track, and I cannot wait to race around and drive around on this track, man. And finally, of course, the #1 track I'm most excited to see is Rainbow Road. Come on, we are all so excited to see the new Rainbow Road with every single Mario Kart installment, and this one feels like it's doing something different from all the rest once again, where we've seen it multiple times up in a night sky, even up in space with a space station with Mario Kart 8, even above a city at night with Mario Kart 64, so it's finally doing something drastically different with giving us almost like a thunder cloud up in the clouds, which is definitely something new. It also seems more mystical this time around, like almost ancient. There's a giant gold star medallion that looks like we're going to be driving on, or at least around as well, and it looks like there's a lot to this, and I can't wait to see exactly what this is going to look like. It looks very exciting, and I'm sure this track is definitely not going to disappoint. Of course, we have no footage and really nothing else of this track besides this leaked image right here, but still, if you're just looking at it, it looks pretty cool, and I can't wait to see how they're going to change this one up from the past ones and see exactly where it falls on my favorite list of all the Rainbow Roads. But of course, this is my most anticipated track so far. That is all 30 tracks from Mario Kart World ranked based on how excited I am for each one. But definitely let me know in the comments down below, how close do you agree with my list? Do you completely disagree? Do you agree slightly, or do you fully agree? And let me know what your list is down below. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out, and like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.